Welcome to this week's episode of the Broken Hearts Club with Michelle Garbutt. I'm your host, Michelle. And this week, I wanted to talk a little bit about emotions and the emotional response that comes from a breakup and the overload and the overwhelming emotions that come from that and the varying emotions that come from a breakup and coming out of, especially if it's a toxic or an unhealthy relationship. And knowing that what you feel is normal, it's valid, and it's okay. I want you to allow yourself to feel the emotions that arise from situations and not fear them and not want to judge them. And just knowing that what you're feeling, the emotions that are arising within you, totally fine, totally justified. And it's okay if that's how you are feeling about a situation and the emotions that are arising around that. I know when my marriage ended, there was a level of relief. And even when my ex-husband and I made the decision that the marriage was over and it was time to let it go and to break up. And my husband walked out of the house and was, I can't remember, he said he was going to get cigarettes from the servo, is what he said to me. And I was like, okay. And when he came back, a lot longer than just going to get cigarettes, but I think he was gathering himself. And in that moment when he was away, I just felt this weight lift from my shoulders. And I didn't even realize that I had been holding on to so much, that it was causing me so much stress and pressure in my body. And when he came back, he said to me, how do you feel? Do you think this is the right thing? And I said, yes, a weight is lifted off my shoulder. And we're doing the right thing. This is definitely the right thing. And I know he didn't feel the same way in that moment, but it was definitely the right choice. But I also felt as, time progressed, I moved out, I found somewhere to live, and the emotions that came, there was the normal when a breakup happens, you have those normal emotions of sadness and you miss them, and there might be anger, and I mean, it all depends on how their relationship ended. But I also felt relief. And then I judged myself for that. So then I felt shame for being relieved to have been free of the relationship. And I wish I had known in those moments that what I was feeling was valid, and whatever emotions that I was feeling was what I needed to feel in that moment. Because I like, the mind starts to go, oh my gosh, what kind of a person are you? If you feel relieved for walking away from that situation, because I felt guilt as well, because my ex wasn't able to work at the time. There was health issues. And I was the main financial provider in our relationship at that point. And so there was also worry about that. Like, oh my God, I've left him. And how is he going to survive? He survived. He managed to survive. But I also felt a lot of guilt around that. And there was this battle internally of like, oh my gosh, what kind of a person are you if you walk away from a person who's in that situation and you're leaving them in that situation? So I felt guilt, and then I felt shame for what I was doing and people judging me. And so I got caught up in this story of what was going on. And this is the thing. Our emotions are a chemical reaction within the body. So it's automated. It's basically the mind goes, this is how I feel, the emotions are released. And then the feeling is the story that we get caught up in, and the story that we start telling ourselves, or the story that we have associated with things. And I wish that someone had told me that the way that I felt, the emotions that were coming up, whatever it was justified. It was okay. I was allowed to feel that way. I was valid in my feelings in all of them. And I think because we're taught, especially women from a young age, to, don't cry. We've got to be the nice one, the happy smiling and making sure everyone feels good. And so we start to bring this connotation and idea that we have to make sure everyone feels good. That's our responsibility. And also to do that, we have to feel good. So we can't feel those bad, quotation mark, bad emotions because, I was told as a child, and I'm sure a lot of other people were, don't cry, it'll be okay, don't cry. So we weren't allowed to have our emotion and express it. And that gives us this idea that we can't express these emotions that are quotation marks bad or that people don't like, and we stop feeling them, and then they end up sitting inside of us and we're pushing them down and we're ignoring them, and then they sit within the body and turn into feelings. And then there's stories and everything, which we've just discovered. There's this story that we have around the good and the bad emotions. And what I would like you to start thinking about, instead of emotions, thinking of them as good as or bad, thinking about them how they feel within your body. So I like to refer to my emotions as heavy or light. So your light ones are obviously the joy, happy, fun, ecstatic, contentment, relaxation, all of those emotions. They're my light ones because they feel light in the body. They're not heavy. They're not they don't bring you. It's those deeper emotions that kind of sit within us and you can feel them in your stomach. That sadness sometimes feels heavy in the chest. So I refer to the ones where, there's the sadness, the shame, possibly regret, all of those emotions, I refer to them as heavy. And I also think that a nice way to think about that is, and which helps some of my clients understand that it's okay to talk about them and to have support moving through them. If you go to the gym and you're doing a light workout, you don't need a spotter. But if you're starting to lift those heavy weights or emotions, it's nice to have a spotter, someone to help you through that process. So never, ever feel like you can't seek out support to help you through those times where you are feeling those heavier emotions. And that's part of my role in helping people with their breakups and partnering themselves better. I also want to share with you an interesting fact because this one can be hard to realize and to acknowledge. But Dr. Jill Bolt Taylor, who is a Harvard neuroscience, and in the research that she has done around the brain, it takes 90 seconds for an emotion to dissipate if you allow it. So that's basically to move through us. Now, to be able to do that, you have to identify the emotion that you're feeling, label it. So your emotion might be sad. I am feeling sad. Cool. And then you allow the emotion to come and go without judgment, without jumping onto it and attaching the story to it of whatever story may come up. We should feel bad. Don't feel this way because you don't want other people to start feeling sad because you're sad. Stop that. Just allow it to identify that emotion, label it, and allow it to come and move through you without judgment. And that process takes about 90 seconds. When we feed the emotion with stories, and then it starts moving into a feeling, we hold on to it and it stays. So we sometimes can get a little bit scared of feeling those heavier emotions because we do know sometimes they cause a reaction within the body. There's the crying, which we're not supposed to do because it makes other people uncomfortable. It doesn't really. And what I am learning, or as I know, sometimes there's some shame. We feel shame around crying in front of other people and how they're going to judge us for being vulnerable. And vulnerability actually takes a lot of strength, as we know. So if we can just allow and know that it's going to pass, there's going to be that reaction. You may cry. There's going to be that reaction within the body, but allow it to come without judgment, just accepting it's okay for me to feel this way, to have this emotion arise in this moment, and it will move through you. And then we're not holding on to it. We're not getting caught up in that story. We're not allowing it to impact in such a big way. And when we are having so many emotions from a breakup, when our emotions, we're going from one to the other, it can be quite overwhelming if we keep holding on to them, or we get stuck in one and we ignore the others and we push them down. And that just means the emotions then sitting in the body, undealt with, manifesting away within our body, impacting our mood, impacting the way that we feel, impacting the way that we move through life, impacting how we're interacting, how we're reacting. And if it's a stress-based and it's causing a stress response within the body, it's keeping us in that fight or flight, primitive mind. And overall, it's not great. So it's much more beneficial for us to allow the emotion to come and move through and be gone, and not hold on to it and allow it, and just accept that in these moments we are going to have all these emotions. But if we allow them to move through us, it's going to be so much more beneficial for us. It's going to help us to heal. It's going to help you heal, help you move forward, and help you process everything that is going on in this moment of your breakup. And any moment, allowing you to acknowledge how you feel, because then that allows you to go, I don't like this. And are there then follow-on steps that you need to make? Are there boundaries that you need to put into place? Are there people, situations that you need to avoid because they're not allowing the emotions to arise in you that you want to feel, because they're not making you feel good? Helps you identify when you're starting to feel anxious, which means you can then bring into play steps to allow yourself not to feel anxious, to bring in tools that you have in place to allow yourself to calm and to regulate your nervous system and to regulate your emotions. There's so much benefit from actually embracing your emotions and understanding how you feel and not fearing them. So I'm hoping by understanding that your emotions can move through you in 90 seconds, if you allow it, you'll be more open to feeling the way that you feel. I hope. I also, one of the top tips with this is, if we become to being able to do this, to be able to identify and label and allowing an emotion to move through you without judgment, you can do things. Mindfulness practices helps with this, stopping the judgment and accepting that you are allowed to feel the way that you can, the way that you do, and that there is nothing wrong with that. And I wish that I had had this information when I also wish that I was more aware when my marriage was breaking up. I wish that I was in the place that I am now, that I had learned the tools that I have now, but can't change the past. And I have no regrets, because this has all been part of my journey of healing and now sharing with others and helping them go through that process. But as you come out of a relationship, there's going to be a bunch of emotions. And if you allow them and accept them, they can move through you in a much more easier way and quicker way. And this will be helpful through your entire life, understanding that just without getting caught up in the story, without allowing yourself to really hold on to that emotion, that you can just allow the emotion to move through you, and it allows you to live with more ease, not having these ups and downs that are slightly big, and just allowing yourself to move through life with a little bit more, I understand who I am, and it's okay, and I'm accepting of all of the parts of myself. And these are all beautiful things from coming from accepting your emotions and understanding them and allowing them to be and allowing them to move through you and not holding on to them. So this has helped you as you face your emotions that come from situations in life, be it a breakup or anything else. But coming back to what you need to do to allow an emotion to move through you in 90 seconds, identify it, label it, allow it to come and go without judgment. I hope this tip will help you deal with the emotions that are arising for you if you're going through a breakup right now, or help you as you move through life and understanding the way that you feel. Because sometimes too, we become so disconnected that we actually don't know how we feel. We don't know what that emotion is. So being able to identify them can also help improve the way that you're living life, moving through life, and your experiences. I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode. Again, if you liked this, please follow the podcast. If you feel someone will benefit from this episode, please share with them. And I would love to connect with you on social. So please do follow me if you feel called to on Instagram, Michelle_Garbett. Also, if you are going through a breakup and you're struggling, there is a Facebook group that is free where you can come in and chat, ask for advice, and there'll be a free monthly meditation in there from yours truly to help you relax and get to know yourself a little bit better, and maybe even get some messages from within, depending on the meditation that I take for that month. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to today's episode. I hope you learned something and there are some tips there for you to bring into your life. Until next time, ciao for now.